And welcome back to Subculture on centralcoastradio.com. Well, there is a very, very exciting theatre production coming to Melbourne that I am so excited that I'm going to be able to check out this week. It's called The Culture, and to tell us a little bit more about The Culture, we thought we would actually get the two stars of the show on the phone right now. Welcome to the program, Laura and Mina.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Now, Laura, you also wrote The Culture, so I think this question might be best suited for you, but tell us a little bit about where the idea first came about for this production and what people can expect from it when they go along to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea for this actually came about, I had a draft that I was working on a number of years ago, actually back in 2015, and at that time Rosie Batty was Australian of the Year, and she was talking about her, devastating story at the death of her son at the hands of her ex-husband. And she was talking about how she was an unlikely victim in the fact that people would listen to her because of her self-proclaimed privilege, that she was highly educated, a woman who you wouldn't necessarily assume to be what we would stereotype incorrectly as a victim of, in this case, family violence. And so some of that influenced my writing of the character of Katie. So this is a two-hander, and Katie's story, she too is an unlikely person to kind of fall prey to a man who is quite toxic. She is very outspoken, very cheeky, very funny, and even she, as statistically that's likely, even she falls prey to this sort of behaviour because statistically 1 in 3 women are impacted by this. And so anyway, that was kind of where the seedling of the idea came from, but it's really at its core, it's a story about a deep friendship. So it's a straight woman, a gay man, they're roommates, they're looking for love, and they're very safe in their happy little codependent bubble.
Yeah.
But when they want to step outside of that and try to find something in a romantic sense, they don't quite have the tools. And so as far as what audiences would expect to see, the first half is very funny. We're calling it a dramedy. It's very cheeky, funny banter. They have a podcast where they kind of have a big rant about the things that they get sick of in the world, and then it shifts throughout the play to explore some of those deeper themes, and then the ending packs a bit of a punch. So yeah, that's what they would expect to see.
So Mina, tell us a little bit about what your first thoughts were when you first read the script for The Culture.
Yeah, when auditions were going out for The Culture, I remember reading the script and I was having a little cackle. I really enjoyed the story, and it's also, unfortunately in Australia, there's not much stories where I would play the role of, so it was a very nice time seeing a play where Laura has written something that I thought that I could play so authentically. And it was a very funny script while also tackling very serious topics, and which is why I enjoyed it. And it seemed that Laura enjoyed my take on Will, so here I am.
Absolutely. Loved your take on him.
Laura, how difficult was that to mix comedy with something so serious as well? Did you find that a difficult task to pull that off when you first was working on those first few drafts?
Yeah, I think I've always been really proud when I've created something and it sparks a conversation, and so the post-show foyer chat, that's really powerful for me. But I've always known that the way to kind of get people to think and engage on a topic isn't necessarily to come at them, really preachy and hit them over the head and, with this strong moral message, that actually being invited into this intimate relationship, into the joy and the fun and the cheekiness and their sibling relationship is what makes those difficult issues easier for us to tackle and talk about. So I guess for me it's felt like the right approach, even though it's strange to sort of think, okay, how can a play tackle these heavy themes and be so comedic?
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes it work.
Mina, how important has that been for you to be able to pick Laura's brain with this? Because you don't always get to work so closely with the playwright when you're acting in a production. So what has that been like for you?
If anything, I very much preferred it. It's very nice to also have the writer in the room. So just, if we're having a little scene breakdown, just to really talk to her and be like, hey, why are we saying X, Y, and Z? And we already have the answers. We don't need a day or two to finally meet the writer, because they're not always in the room when it comes to rehearsals in a normal setting. So it's very nice to just have that person just constantly there, because she's two people in one at the moment.
I'm sure I was painful when I was, saying to Mina, that's not the line, when he's learnt it a certain way. I'm sure he was sick of having the writer in the room then. But
no, but if anything, it makes things easier, because what's the point of learning something wrong, and then a few weeks later when the writer is in the room, it's just unlearning it. If anything, just nip it in the bud from the beginning.
And Mina's always given the writing such respect, and he's always brought his own instincts to it in such a beautiful way, while maintaining the integrity of the script. So I felt very lucky to be able to do it with Mina.
Laura, I understand that the production actually premiered in New York as well. Tell us how that came about, and how was it received by a New York crowd?
Yeah, it did premiere in New York. We were in this little tiny 40-seat theatre, quite run down little space, but it was right in the theatre district. So we were kind of on one side we had Phantom, and the other side we had, Lion King, and it was all very bit of a bucket list moment, which was great. And it came about because I had a director come work with me when I was studying at NIDA, and we did a week, I think even maybe 2 weeks a week, it wasn't long, with her on her, she was a Michael Chekhov kind of focused director, actor teacher, and I just loved her so much. And so then when COVID struck and, the whole industry was on its knees and we had no auditions or anything, I was hunting around for some classes to be able to do online. And I thought of her and realised that she was offering classes from New York, and I was jumping on from Australia, and we built this really deep and mutual respect for each other and each other's creative practice. And so then I asked her to read the script, and she did. And then I was heading to the States for a wedding, so I thought, look, if I can make it a tax deduction, I said, if I come over to you, would you direct it? And she said she would. So that's how that came about. And as far as how the New York audience responded to it, they did respond really well. They were very emotionally connected with us. I felt like they were really on that deeper journey. But I will add that I think the comedy lands better in Australia, because it's quite an Australian play. We've got really Australian references early on. There's Aussie politicians, and we reference Bob Catter and people like that New Yorkers just had no idea. Yeah. And we eat cherry ripes through the show, and they'd never tasted one. A few came up to us afterwards and said, "Oh, can I try one of those?" So that was sweet. But bringing it back to Australia, we've realised it belongs in Australia, and the Australian audience. The audiences are so enthusiastic with their response, so that's been really, really nice.
As someone who also does radio and newspaper in Phuket, I can definitely relate to that tax expense idea. So yes, Mina, how do you feel now that it's about to get its Melbourne premiere? Are you excited or are you nervous?
I feel amazing. We've done a few in Australia now. It's so interesting, even in Australia, with each city that we do, it's just each city just seems to have its own kick with what they laugh at and what jokes they don't and what they do, and it's so interesting. So it's interesting to see. We have our previews tonight to see what they laugh at and what they connect with more compared to the other cities that we've been with, and I'm keen. I'm so excited. Every time we're on that stage, it's like magic.
I think Melbourne will love it. I feel like Melbourne is going to be on board for this roommate, fun, cheeky relationship. I just think that the comedy will land in Melbourne. We'll see, but we've been surprised at different cities that one joke goes off in Adelaide and then Sydney didn't really care for it, and then suddenly Sydney they were laughing raucously at things that we never really thought were funny. So it's really nice to that's the magic of live theatre, that it's a two-way relationship, and we see what you love and we respond, and so it'd be great to see what Melbourne thinks.
Awesome. Now, for all of our listeners out there, the Culture is on from the 7th to the 17th of June at the Explosives Factory, which is part of TheatreWorks All of the dates and times are up on our website right now, and you can grab tickets from there as well. Laura, Mina, I guess to finish off, what would you like to say to our listeners out there who are thinking about heading along and checking out the culture?
You better be there.
Please come. We would
And
love
if you're not, we hate you. Please come. It will be lots of laughs, lots of crying, and we'll be there to give you all a hug at the end of the show.
And we love to chat afterwards. So, you know, if you like the sound of our cheeky, hilarious voices, you'll love the show because it's just us.
Yeah.
Awesome. So once again, for everybody, the culture is on from the 7th to the 17th of June at the Explosives Factory, which is part of TheatreWorks. All the time, dates, and ticket information is on our website right now. Thank you to you both for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and I can't wait to check out the show this week as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't wait to meet you in person.
Yeah.